All right, now listen to what I say here. This is like a pretty important point.
When I walked in this bar, I'm just gonna be straight up. I saw your nipples hard in that shirt, and I was like, I'm in love. That's it.
All right, so now I just said something very over the top. I said when I walked in this bar, I saw your nipples hard. And I said,
No
that was over the
one.
top. But I'm saying it in a funny way, and I'm owning it, right? And I'm speaking sexually about her body, and it's coming from like a manly place, not a fucking weird or creepy place.
I'm getting married. I saw the fucking nipples, and I was just like, that is really nice, and I want to suck on them.
All right, so now I'm like, those nipples were really nice. I saw them and I wanted to suck on them. Okay, just watching my battery here on my computer. It's like 15%. Okay, so listen to how she reacts about this.
Oh my god!
Can we lick him through your shirt?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
All right, she's saying it in a funny way though, like she's not like weirded out or creeped out. I'm just openly being like, damn, you have like fucking nice ass nipples. I want to suck on them. But I'm like saying it unapologetically. It's coming from a manly place, like basically implying like I'm going to suck on them. I'm going to bang you. See, she's laughing. Teasing her for not knowing about Puerto Rico, physically escalating.
So here, that makes
Like
sense.
Spanish girls?
She's like, do you like Spanish girls? I'm like, yeah. So now it's like really on. This is what it means to be on, right? Like for those of you that are like, how do I know if she likes me? Like, how do I know if it's like on? Okay, first of all, I already kissed her, but all my subcommunicate, like, it's so powerful to just assume you're taking her home, okay? Because then everything you do and say comes from that place, and the girl buys into it as well.
Happy Wednesday to you, fellas. Now, you just heard that intro. And you see me smiling. Why am I smiling? After you listen to that intro, why am I smiling? If you're a long-time follower of mine, you know that one of my favorite feelings in the world is the feeling of being vindicated. That's one of my favorite words in the English language, vindication. Vindication. I got my vindication. In case you lost, what am I talking about? And whose voice was that? I wasn't going to say his name, but I'm going to go ahead and say his name. If you remember a few videos ago, I don't know, as recently as I want to say about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, there was this guy, fairly well-known conventional pickup artist who goes by the name John Anthony. His claim to fame is he has the highest lay count of any PUA out there, according to him. He has the highest lay count of anyone out there. Beginning when he lost his virginity up until now, he's had sex with 1,500 women, which he claims is the highest lay count of any conventional PUA or anybody in the, PUA community or attraction and seduction community or manosphere. And here's what he did, to give you the brief backstory. First, he actually wrote me an email. He had Anthony Johnson, the creator and founder of the 21 Convention, introduce us via email. And then he invited me to be a guest on his YouTube channel. And I respectfully turned him down. And I'm assuming that made him feel some kind of way, because I respectfully declined his invitation to be a guest on his YouTube channel. So then he started taking jabs at me. He called my Mode 1 approach, and more specifically my Mode 1 hardcore approach, really both of them. He called both my Mode 1, my standard Mode 1 approach, and my Mode 1 hardcore approach dumb, risky. He said it had the potential to cause women to perceive you as weird and creepy. And he said in best case scenario, you're only going to have a 5 to 10% conversion rate, closing ratio. Yeah, he said in best case scenario, you're only going to have a 5 to 10% conversion rate or closing ratio. And he said in worst case scenario, he called it dumb, extremely risky, and has a high potential to cause women to perceive you is weird and creepy. Okay? You got that? That's what he said. And I discussed it on a couple videos. Well, that was his voice you just heard in the intro. A couple days ago, one of my Patreon subscribers, he's an international client of mine, he told me, he wrote me, he said, Alan, I think John Anthony is a hypocrite. Because I heard where he criticized your Mode 1 hardcore approach, but I remember listening to a video where he did a variation of a Mode 1 hardcore approach, where he straightforwardly told a woman that he wanted to suck on her tits shortly after he met her. And I wrote back, I said, oh, really? I said, you got a link? And he said, I'm going to have to find it. That was what's the day, Wednesday? No, it was more than a couple days ago because that would have been Monday. I think this was either Saturday or Sunday when he wrote me that email. And then I responded back. I said, do you have a link? And he said, I'm going to have to find it. Well, guess what? This morning he found it. Yeah, it's from a video. He has a video. It's still up there. It's a video from January of 2018. So about what? 4.5 years ago? Yeah, it's from about 4.5 years ago. And most of the important dialogue you heard in my intro. If you watch the whole thing, this is what he basically believes in. Here's how he's similar to me, but he's a little bit different when it comes to executing a Mode 1 hardcore approach. He's similar to me, but a little bit different. In terms of when you first meet the woman, he said when you first meet a woman, you should make an effort to get in her space. A person's space is considered that 3-foot radius that surrounds your body. Basically, anytime somebody is within 3 feet of your body, 3 feet or less of your body, that means they're in your space, and vice versa. If you're closer than 3 feet, if you're less than 3 feet away from a person's body, that means you're in their space. So that's the first thing he recommends to his male clients is that when you meet a woman, get in her space. Who's been recommending that since the 1980s? So that's one area where we're on the same page. I've been recommending that since the mid to late 80s, that you get into a woman's space. The second thing is where we're a little different. The second thing is where we're a little different. From there, he believes that you should talk to a woman for at least a minute or two, and then you go for a kiss. Then you make an effort to tongue kiss the woman. A lot of European PUAs believe in that. I know for a fact from listening to various videos, a lot of European PUAs believe in that. They believe in immediately going in for a kiss, man. See, I can't speak for Europe and other countries. Here in the United States, in the 21st century, with the Me Too movement, man, you asking for a sexual harassment charge or sexual assault charge. Seriously, you asking for a sexual assault charge. You can't just meet a woman you just met, just go in for a kiss. Man, I ain't never done that. Well, I ain't gonna say I ain't never done that. I probably did that back in like the 80s or something. But definitely, man, starting with probably the 90s to now, man, I've never gone in for a kiss within the first minute or two after I met a woman. I ain't never done that, man. I ain't never done that. And I wouldn't recommend any of my male clients do that. Anyway, that's where we separate. He believes that you should try to kiss a woman within the first minute or two of the conversation. Then, after, he believes if a woman reciprocates your kiss, he says on this video that you shouldn't hesitate to start talking dirty to her and physically escalate. basically start touching on a woman's body and whatnot. That's what he says. He says, if the woman reciprocates your kiss, then you shouldn't hesitate to talk dirty to her. Like in the instance on this video, what he did was he met the woman, he got in her space at a nightclub. He got in her space. That's the first thing he did. Then I want to say within a minute or two after he started talking to her, he immediately made an attempt to kiss her. She reciprocated. And then he said he told her that I can tell through your blouse that your nipples are hard and I would love to suck on your tits. That's Mode 1 hardcore, baby. That's Mode 1 hardcore. But yet he criticized the idea of me talking dirty to a woman in 5 minutes or less after I met him, if you remember. He totally criticized. He criticized Mode 1, standard Mode 1, is when you start talking dirty to women at roughly the 4-minute or 5-minute mark of your conversation with a woman. He criticized that. Mode 1 hardcore is when you start talking dirty to a woman almost as soon as you start talking to her. Somewhere within the first 90 seconds of the conversation. He harshly criticized that. But yet, on this video, he was endorsing and recommending what I would call a slight variation of Mode 1 himself. Again, the only major difference between what he was recommending to his clients and what I recommend to my clients is he recommends that you try to kiss a woman before you talk dirty to them. That's what he recommends. He recommends that you try to kiss a woman before you talk dirty to them. And he basically says, if a woman reciprocates your kiss, then you go ahead and talk dirty to them. But if she rejects your kiss, then you basically, you leave her alone and you don't talk dirty to them. I would never try to kiss a woman in the first minute or two of my conversation with them. Definitely not here in the United States. For damn sure. That's crazy. I mean, seriously, real talk. I'm not being lighthearted. In the Me Too movement era, that is one of the dumbest, and he had the nerve to call my approach dumb. That's one of the dumbest things you can ever do here in the United States. I can't speak for all countries, but I'm speaking solely specific for the United States. That would be one of the dumbest and most riskiest things you can ever do with a woman, is to go up to a woman you just met, talk to her for about a minute or two, and then try to tongue kiss her. Man, do that with a black woman, don't she slap the fucking shit out you. That's something I would never encourage a client of mine to do. But anyway, if you take the tongue kissing element and push it to the side, his approach is really not that much different from mine. But yet, he was calling my approach dumb. He called it extremely risky. He said it had the potential to cause women to look at you as weird and creepy. Did you hear what he said at one point towards the end of the intro? He said I'm going to be paraphrasing his word. He said something to the fact, I know she wasn't offended by me telling her I wanted to suck her tits because I owned what I said, something I've been talking about since the 80s, owning what you say. So he's trying to be just like me. He said, because I owned what I said. And he said it came from a place of manliness, masculine manliness. Come on, man. Vindicated. John Anthony, don't ever talk shit to me, boy. Yeah, I called you boy. Don't ever talk shit to me, boy.
Ha! Got him! Ha! Got him! Oh! Whoa! Whoa!
Don't ever talk shit to me. And you trying to imitate me. You talking shit to me, but you trying to imitate me. Because we know you wasn't doing this shit in 1984 like me. So everybody know I ain't imitating you because as far as I know, you younger than me. There wasn't nobody doing this type of shit back in 1984 who's younger than me. And if you're a long-time follower of mine, you've seen this repeated a number of times. I've had a number of people who have criticized different aspects of my advice, but then turn around and try to copy it and imitate it. I ain't gonna go down a list right now, but I could. But there's a number of well-known pickup artists and dating coach and manosphere content creators that have tried to take jabs at me, but then they try to copy and imitate my shit. I'm the originator, motherfuckers. Quote me on it. When it comes to being bold, verbally direct, I'm the originator, motherfuckers. Hell yeah, Rambo coming out. Y'all better give me my damn due respect. Tired of this shit, man. I done taught all y'all. Y'all are my sons. Quote me on it. Y'all are my sons. All y'all who try to copy and imitate, you my sons. I'm your daddy. I'm older than you, wiser than you, in many cases better looking than you, verbally smoother than you. Y'all my sons, I'm your daddy. If not your daddy, your uncle. Maybe big brother. But y'all better give me my damn respect like LeBron said when he won that 2020 NBA championship. He said, y'all better start giving me my damn respect.
We just want our respect. Rob wants his respect. Coach Vogel wants his respect. Our organization want their respect. Laker Nation want their respect. And I want my damn respect too.
And bro, this dude gonna come after me and he's basically trying to beat me. That's why he wanted me as a guest on his show. He knew it deep down. If you didn't really, truly didn't respect somebody and didn't approve of their methods of connecting with women, why would you want them as a guest on your show? I mean, real talk. I mean, I'm being serious. Why would you want them as a guest on your show? That don't even make sense. I used to do interviews with people, man. When I used to do my show up front and straightforward with AlanRogerCurrie on Blog Talk Radio, I've invited people to be a guest that I might have some intellectual disagreements with, philosophical differences with, but I never invited anybody on my show that I just totally just didn't respect. Never, ever. So that's the biggest thing that you got to take into account. John Anthony, this dude wanted me to be a guest on his channel. And it wasn't until I respectfully declined when he started talking shit about my Mode 1 approach. And again, he didn't talk shit about Mode 1.5. I don't remember him having anything negative to say about Mode 1.5. But he criticized my standard Mode 1 approach, and he definitely criticized my Mode 1 hardcore approach. But again, man, if you watch that video from January 2018, man, he's basically being a variation of Mode 1 hardcore himself. Again, the only major difference in what he did with this woman at this nightclub versus what I do is he immediately tried to kiss the woman. He immediately tried to kiss a woman. Now, see, in my Patreon exclusive portion, and I really talked about this on my very last video, but I'm going to talk about that in my Patreon exclusive portion today. Kissing don't mean shit. I said that again in the last video. Kissing don't mean shit. Just because a woman allows you to tongue kiss her doesn't definitely mean she's going to allow you to fuck her. Again, I'll say for at least the second, if not third time, if I would have had intercourse with every woman I tongue kissed, at bare minimum, I would have fucked at least 2,000 women in my life, which would have been a higher lay count than John Anthony. Yeah, I've tongue kissed at, I don't know the exact number, so it's going to be a rough estimate. If I was estimating on the low end, I would say I've tongue kissed a minimum of 2,000 women in my life. Starting with the age of 13, 14, all the way up until the age of 56. I've tongue kissed a minimum, bare minimum, of about 2,000 women in my life. At maximum, I would say I've tongue kissed somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 women in my life. Tongue kissing does not always equal oral sex or intercourse. Does not. And that's why me and one of my Patreon subscribers got into it in my Patreon live stream last Saturday, and I'm gonna talk more about that in my Patreon exclusive portion today. But yeah, man. So anyway, man, I just had to celebrate on that, man. This dude criticizing me, taking jabs at me, and for all practical purposes, man, with a few modifications, he trying to be like me, man. Verbally, he trying to be like me. Now, I want to touch on very briefly, and this ain't going to be too long, some of the feedback I got from my very last video regarding the fact that Fresh and Fit rescinded their invitation to me. Got a lot of feedback, both privately and publicly, about Fresh and Fit rescinding their invitation. A lot of my followers, subscribers, and supporters, they have mixed feelings. There were a few that were disappointed that Fresh and Fit took their invitation back. But I would say over 50% of the guys actually, they feel like it's a blessing in disguise. One of the biggest things a lot of followers, subscribers said, they said, Alan, I think if you would have went on that show live, and particularly if you would have done the after hours portion, I'm almost positive your Rambo side would have came out inevitably. Your Rambo side would have came out inevitably. Because you have a low tolerance for people saying stupid shit and shit that's highly invalid. You have a low tolerance for people saying shit that you feel is stupid / unintelligent, or shit that's just very, what you feel is highly invalid. So a lot of guys are like, man, I feel like your Rambo side would have came out like full force. Yeah, like I said, man, I'm not angry or upset that they took back the invitation. Disappointed? I'm disappointed because mainly, and I said this on the very last video, so I'm repeating myself, but I want a lot of the guys who are in the millennial and post-millennial generation to know that it was me who got this whole dating coaching ball started in the first place. I am literally the first black dating coach in the manosphere. I was the first black dating coach in the manosphere. Again, I've been on the scene in the worldwide manosphere since May of 1999. Now, if you're talking about off the internet, I've been dropping games since the 1980s. Off the internet. Yeah, off the internet, I've been dropping game to guys since like 1985. Really, I'd say technically fall of 84. Technically, fall of 84 is when I first started technically dropping game. I mean, I wasn't charging money for it, so I wasn't doing it professionally. If you're talking about informally, I'll say this. Informally, meaning I wasn't really charging money for it. I wasn't doing like, consultations or anything. But just among friends and acquaintances dropping game. I've been dropping games since like 1984, 1985. Specifically here on the internet, I've been dropping game in the form of my first ebook. My first ebook version of Mode 1 came out in mid-May of 1999. Mid-May of 1999. That's when I first, you could say, began associating myself with a lot of the message boards, discussion forums, and blog sites that were considered to be a subset of what later would be referred to as the manosphere. Yeah, that's the main. That was the number one objective I wanted to accomplish, if no other objective. I'm tired of people treating people who came after me like they were some type of originator of a talking point. As you know, that's one of my biggest frustrations. That's why I'm irritable half the time. I hate seeing people who came after me getting credit that I should be getting. These motherfuckers stole my shit. And I ain't gonna go into no long digression on the whole copycat. If you want to, the best person who summed up the whole copycat issue is my man who goes by the pseudonym Matt King. I always put that in the comment section of all my videos, a link to that essay called The Rise of Fake, Fraudulent, Copycat Dating Coaches. It was written by a supporter man. I don't know his real name, but he goes by the pseudonym Matt King. He broke it down. So ever since he wrote that essay, man, I don't really spend a lot of time talking about the whole copycat issue, people copying my talking points and all that shit. Because he just broke it down so thoroughly in his essay. Matt King, shout out to Matt King if he's listening right now. Yeah, his essay breaks the shit down, man. But yeah, man. I just saw somebody write that recently in the comment section. Like 2 days ago, somebody wrote that. Somebody said in somebody's comment section, somebody wasn't familiar with it. They said, I'm sorry, fellas, but I don't know who ARC is. Who is ARC? And somebody's reply comment was the brother who created over half of the talking points in the worldwide manosphere. Now, there's some talking points I don't try to take credit for. People who talk about stuff to do with like men's rights, I don't take any credit for that shit. Stuff to do with going through a challenging divorce or a challenging child custody battle, I don't take no credit for that. Stuff to do with anti-feminism, anti-gynocracy talking points, I don't take no credit for that. See, there's a lot of sets of the manosphere. The manosphere doesn't cover just one thing. It covers a bunch of things. A lot of them I just mentioned. You know, when it comes specifically to the dating and relationship subset, the dating and relationships advice subset, and also called the attraction and seduction community subset of the manosphere. To do with that specifically subset, I did. I would say no less than 40 to 50% of the talking points out there. I was the first one to talk about the shit. I was the first one to start breaking shit down. They might know that's the truth. If they've been around long enough, they know that's the truth. They might know Alpha Male Strategies pretty much took my entire book, The Possibility of Sex, and adopted most, if not all of the talking points in that book for his own self. They might know that by now. I mean, let's keep some shit real. Anyway, I'm going to go over, before I wrap up this video and move into my Patreon portion, I ain't given my own speculative reasons why I felt like Fresh and Fit took back their invitation. Speaking of that, somebody did ask me. They said, Alan, is this the first time you've had that happen? Like somebody invited you to be a guest and then they kind of rescinded? Yes and no. This is the first time to my memory, I'm trying to think of somebody else, for a male interviewing me, I want to say yes, this is, unless I'm forgetting somebody. This is the first time I've had a man extend an invitation to interview me, and then weeks or months later, they took the invitation back. So yeah, Fresh and Fit are the first men to do that. But I've had 2 women who did that before. Yeah, I can think of at least 2 women who actually did that before. One was this woman who's real popular in Chicago, or at least used to be. I don't know if she still is. She used to have a show on cable TV in the Chicago area. Name was Zandra Hughes. Zandra Hughes. Yeah, she had invited me to interview on. She had this show called The 5 Brown Chicks. They were real popular among black women in the Chicago area. And she was going to have me as a guest. And then later on, she took the invitation back. She said something to the fact that I had too much of a potty mouth, and she disagreed with some stuff I said in my book, The Possibility of Sex, and she ended up taking the invitation back. Another woman, she wasn't too well known. There was this woman named LaVale Smith Hall. She was also in the Chicago area. She was a upscale socialite in the Chicago area. She was in the bougie clique in the Chicago area. And she actually conducted the interview. It was interesting. I told this story years ago. This happened probably 6-7 years ago. She interviewed me at her house. Beautiful house. She had a beautiful home. She had just went through a divorce with some wealthy dude. She was married to some really, really wealthy dude. And she had a house that was just banging. And so it was me, her, and one of her sorority sisters at the house. And she conducted the interview. I'm going to skip over Ms. Lady's details. I don't feel like getting into details. But here's what was funny. Here's what was funny about what she interviewed me for about, I don't know, 90 minutes, somewhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours. And I noticed that when I was breaking shit down in the interview, she was giving me these looks. She was giving me looks, but she was more so giving her sorority sister look. She kept looking at her sorority sister. What it looked like, this dude is something else. That's basically the look she would give her sorority sister like, this guy is something else. So she interviewed me. And she had already advertised the interview on her Facebook page. She said, I got this, interview coming up with dating coach AlanRogerCurrie. But then, here's what happened. 2 things happened. First thing, during the interview, she paused at about 15 minutes before the interview was over. She said, I need to take a break. I'm going to get something to drink from my kitchen. Alan, can you stay seated here? I'm going to get something to drink. And then she gestured for a sorority sister to follow her into the kitchen. Have you ever been around some people, I don't know, maybe they were 4 or 5 feet away from you, and they thought they were whispering, but they really weren't. You could hear their conversation. I'm sure that's happened to a few people at least once. Where somebody thought they was far enough away from you that you wouldn't be able to hear what they say, but you actually did hear what they say. I knew it was potentially going to get canceled because she tells her sorority sister, and I'm going to be paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact words, but here's a paraphrase. She said, this guy, Alan, he ain't who I thought he was. Did you know he was like this? And then her sorority sister said, well, he's pretty thorough. She said, girl, I can't put this interview up. I can't put this interview up. Because he it's like she complimented me and criticized me at the same time. You know what she basically said? Again, I'm paraphrasing, but she basically was like, this nigga know too much. Seriously, that's how she basically was. She was like, this nigga know too much about female nature. Because I was breaking down why women gravitate towards alpha males, why women gravitate towards beta males. I was breaking down a lot of stuff to do with women's, basically everything I break down in my book, The Possibility of Sex, and my book, No Free Attention, which are 2 books. The Possibility of Sex, women don't like that because I break shit down so well in there. And I would say, to a lesser extent, No Free Attention too, in part 2. Everything I break down in those 2 books, and The Possibility of Sex, No Free Attention, I would say to a lesser extent, The Beta Male Revolution, although The Beta Male Revolution I don't think was written yet at the time of this interview. A A lot of stuff I break down in those 3 books, I was breaking down in this interview. And she knew that her audience was like 80% women, 20% men. And number one, she didn't want the men who listened to her to be enlightened. She didn't want the men who listened to her to be too enlightened on my knowledge, wisdom, and insight. And she didn't want the women, she felt like the women would have a negative reaction, like, damn, this guy, he's sharing too many of our secrets. Yeah. So she went ahead and continued like the interview for another 15, 20 minutes. And then she was like, Alan, yeah, I'll be in touch. She was like, yeah, I'll be in touch. And deep down, again, my little voice was like, she ain't gonna upload this interview. Sure enough, she wrote, because people was asking her, it's like, when you gonna upload the interview with dating coach AlanRogerCurrie? She's like, well, actually, that's been canceled. She's like, I'm not gonna upload it. And everybody's like, oh, are you serious? Especially the dudes. The dudes was like, oh man, we wanted to hear what AlanRogerCurrie had to say. She's like, no, I just don't feel like it's a good fit for my demographic. And yeah, I'm not going to upload that interview. I knew it when I left that woman's house. So anyway, on the subject of Alan, have you had somebody before? Before the Fresh and Fit, that was probably the last time. Was that woman Lavelle Smith Hall, man. She did it again. She conducted the interview in a pre-recorded manner, but then she wouldn't upload it because she knew I was breaking shit down. It wasn't because it was a bad interview. It was because I was breaking shit down like I always do. I was breaking shit down about women's sexually duplicitous nature, which is what my book, Who Said Again, is all about. I was breaking shit down about women's sexually duplicitous nature. And then I was breaking shit down about women's manipulative and materialistic nature, which is what my book, The Possibility of Sex and No Free Attention, is about. And yeah, she couldn't deal with that. Because I could tell when she was interviewing, it's like she was looking at me like, damn, you know a lot of shit about us. She didn't think I knew that much stuff about women's, as most people call women's true nature. She didn't think I knew that much stuff. And she kept looking at me while she was interviewing me like, damn, how do you know all this stuff about us? Yeah, and so she didn't even upload the interview. Anyway, here's based on feedback I got both publicly and privately from my followers, subscribers, supporters. Here was their top 5 reasons. I'm going to go over them real quick, and then I'm going to transition into my Patreon exclusive portion. What were the top 5 reasons why my followers, not so much me, but my followers, subscribers, supporters, felt like Fresh and Fit took back their invitation? Number 1, ARC took too long to accept their invitation and confirm his appearance as a guest on their platform, which probably made them feel that ARC wasn't really too enthusiastic about being a guest on their platform. That was the one I heard the most. That's the reason, that the speculative reason that I received the most. It's simply that, because Myron first invited me, I think it was February 21st. If I'm not mistaken, it was February 21st when he first sent me the invitation. Then about 7 or 8 weeks later, I gave him a 90% confirmation. I think it was in early to mid-April. I gave him a 90% confirmation that I would be a guest, but I still wasn't 100% sure. I gave him like a 90% confirmation, but I still wasn't 100% sure. And it was at that time when I also told him that I really wasn't down to participate in the after hours portion. And then I gave him 100% confirmation this past Friday, and that's when he told me that they were taking the invitation back. That was no longer valid. Yeah, so that's the reason why most people think, is that I took approximately 5 months to confirm, and that they probably felt like, well, damn, if it's taking him this long to confirm, he must really not want to be a guest on our show. So that was speculative reason number one, based on my followers, subscribers, supporters. Reason number two, ARC wasn't willing to appear on their after hours portion of their live stream, the one with the women on the table, and that is the portion where they attract their most views in super chats. Yeah, I would definitely agree that's a valid speculative reason. I would say reason number one and reason number two are very valid reasons for why they took back that. Because again, when I did give them that 90% confirmation in early to mid-April, I told him, I said, 99% chance I don't want to do the after hours portion. I told him that. I said, I don't want to do the after hours portion. And at that time, he said, well, we don't obligate guests to do the after hours portion. We prefer guests do the after hours portion, but we don't obligate guests to do the after hours portion. And I was like, okay, yeah. But yeah, that was the second most reason I received. Reason number three that my followers, subscribers, and supporters felt like Fresh and Fit took back their invitation to have me as a guest on August 31st of this year. The Fresh and Fit male audience believes that looks and fitness plus money and status plus indirect verbal gain is what leads to success with women, and ARC doesn't emphasize money and status and is harshly critical of indirect verbal gain. Now, that was a new one I heard over the last 2 or 3 days. I don't know how valid that is. But yeah, I know they do emphasize 3. Yeah, they have 3 days dedicated to almost each one of those. Their Monday podcast, Myron told me, is dedicated to money, discussions that center around money and improving your degree of wealth and managing your wealth. Wednesdays is Womanizer Wednesdays, where they talk about, stuff to do with dating advice. And then Fridays is Fitness Fridays. Money Mondays, Womanizer Wednesdays, and Fitness Fridays. Now, out of those 3, the one I don't have a disagreement with is looks and fitness. I think all men should take care of their looks. I've always said looks are important to one degree or another. So I've never disagreed with the emphasis on looks and eating right and exercising and that type of thing. So that's the one out of those 3 I don't disagree with. Money and status, without getting too lengthy, here's what I've always said about money and status. I've always said that money and status can contribute to you finding your next long-term girlfriend or future wife. So when it comes to long-term relationships and marriage, I've always said your level of career success and financial success does have its place most of the time. There's exceptions, but most of the time. Where I disagree with the emphasis on money and status and material possession, all that shit is when it comes to short-term, non-monogamous casual sex. I ain't never needed money. I've already said that probably 2 million times, but I ain't never needed no money to get no badass pussy in my bedroom. I done fucked 7s, 8s, and 9s while broke. And anybody know me in real life know that's the truth. Particularly when I was in my 20s and 30s. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I had 7s, 8s, and 9s in my bed during times when I was broke and in between jobs and didn't own a car. So I've never agreed. Like, somebody sent me a link of some YouTuber who said, he said something to the effect, I might be slightly paraphrasing. He said, all players know this fact right here. Now, one, he called it a fact, not an opinion, a fact. He said, all players know this fact right here. If you want to get fine women in your bed, not no average or ugly chicks, but fine women in your bed, you got to have it going on in terms of your money. You got to have a nice-ass car, nice-ass clothes, and you got to lie to them and sell them a dream. That's what this YouTuber said. I ain't going to say the name of the guy. I don't even know if I remember the name of the guy. But follow mine sent me this link. This guy said, all players know this fact. First thing he said, all players know this fact. If you want to get fine women back, basically women who are 7s, 8s, 9s, or 10s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. He said you got to have it going on money-wise. You got to have a nice-ass car. And you got to have nice-ass clothes. False. False like a motherfucker. I can only speak for myself. Now, some guys might have to have that shit. I ain't going to say no guy has to have that shit. Honestly, keeping it blunt, if you're a goofy, nerdy, beta male type dude, you probably got to have that shit. But if you're a guy who's reasonably good looking with a smooth, seductive mouthpiece like me, you don't need none of that shit. Dude, I fucked 7, 8s, and 9s riding a bus in Los Angeles, man. Miss me with that shit. Miss me with that shit. Number 2, he said, secondly, he said, you got to lie to women and sell them a dream. Insert dog face here. No, that's what you goofy, corny beta males who don't look like shit, don't sound like shit gotta do. Keep it real. Keep it 100. That's what you goofy, corny, nerdy, beta male type dudes gotta resort to. You ain't got no face. You ain't got no physique. You definitely ain't got no mouthpiece. That's why you feel like you gotta sell a woman. I ain't never had to sell a woman shit. Real talk drops, Mike. I ain't never had to sell a woman no damn dream. All I had to do was use my mouthpiece to get their pussy wet. All I needed to do was be reasonably good looking, which of course I am, and use this smooth, seductive mouthpiece to get their pussy dripping wet. That's all I've needed. I ain't had to sell a woman on no damn dream. Now, if he would have said that was his own opinion, I wouldn't have no issue. But he specifically stated, he said, all players know this fact. Not opinion, but fact. That's not a fact, bro. I've been a player, a major player. Ain't never needed no fancy car when I was young to get pussy. Ain't never needed no fancy clothes to get pussy. What do you say? Money, clothes. Yeah, money, clothes, and a fancy car was what he said. Money, clothes. I ain't need none of that shit when I was in my 20s and 30s. Real talk. I ain't need none of that shit. And then the second thing he says, you got to lie to women. If you want to get fine women in bed, you got to lie to them and sell them a dream. I ain't never had to do that shit. And that's why I'm the bad motherfucker that I am. Anyway, moving on to reason number 4 that my followers felt like Fresh and Fit took back their invitation. ARC is a dating coach from the baby boomer generation, and the men who watch Fresh and Fit are primarily from the millennial and post-millennial generation. Well, I had said that myself. I had said that myself on the video I did on Monday, 2 days ago. Now, I had some guys tell me, remember I said 2 things on my last video. I said, I probably would have been the oldest person they've had on their show, on their podcast program. And number 2, I more specifically said, I would have been the oldest dating coach, dating advisor they've had on their show. I was wrong on one of those 2, but I was still right on one. Turns out they have had 2 guys, a minimum of 2 guys, as guests on their show that are older than me, but they weren't dating coaches. They weren't dating and relationship advisors. Remember, I told you they got 3 themes on their podcast. They got at least minimum of 3 themes. They got Money Mondays, where they talk about stuff to do with increasing your career success, your financial success, and once you get more money, managing that money. That's what they generally emphasize on Mondays. They got Womanizer Wednesdays, where they invite pickup artists, dating coaches, relationship experts, that type of thing. And then they got Fitness Fridays, where they talk to people about eating right, exercising, and basically, improving your looks and your physique. The two guys they've had that were older than me, according to some of my followers, was Richard Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I actually own that book. Pretty good book. He was born in 1947. He's a baby boomer. Yeah, he was born in 1947. Then they had a guy named Grant Cardone. I'm not as familiar with him as I am with Kiyosaki, but he's like some kind of sales trainer and real estate expert. And he was born in 1958. But so I was wrong in saying that I would have been the oldest person, period. But I was still right in saying I would have been the oldest dating coach. They've never had a dating coach or a relationship expert that I know of that was born before March 3rd of 1963, which is when I was born. I don't know of any. Now, one of my followers could tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I don't know of any. I'm the last of the baby boomer dating coaches, man. I said this on Monday. I'm pretty much the last of the baby boomer dating coaches. Just about all the real popular dating coaches who came after me, they're either in Generation X, which is people born in between 1965 and 1961, Generation Y, which is millennials, which is you were born between 1982 and 1996, or post-millennials, which means you were born between 1997 and 2016. Yep. Like Ron Wills, for example. Ron Wills is probably arguably the closest dating coach to my age, but he's in Generation X. He was born in February of 1965. So he's younger than me. Not by much. He's just under 2 years younger than me. But I can't think of another baby boomer dating coach. Now, Ross Jeffries, of course, who people call the godfather of the PUA subset of the manosphere, he's older than me. He was born in 1958. Ross Jeffries. Yeah. He's 63. He's about 4.5 years older than me. Yeah, he's 4.5. I met him in person at the 2017 21 convention. Yeah, he was at he was a speaker at the 2017 21 convention. We had a conversation, lengthy conversation, about direct versus indirect. But yeah, there's no other well-known, reasonably popular baby boomer dating coach that I know of. Any dating coach that's out there that's just as popular as me, if not more popular than me, is somebody who's from Generation X, Generation Y, or Generation Z. But yeah, I would have been the first baby boomer generation dating coach they would have had on their show. Live, I should say live. Because technically they've already had me. Myron already interviewed me on August 31st of 2020. It's just that it wasn't live. So this would have been my first live interview with Myron. But second, overall, it would have been my second interview with him. He already interviewed me. And then the fifth and final reason why my followers felt like Fresh and Fit took back their invitation. ARC is married, and more specifically married to an American black woman, and Fresh and Fit have been openly critical of black women and even more so marriage. Yeah, I've heard about that. I did a video about that actually. I did a video earlier this year addressing when they criticize black women, more specifically dark-skinned black women. That's what they really went after. It's not black women in general, specifically dark-skinned. They said we don't deal with night riders. Yeah, they harshly criticize dark-skinned black women. Yeah, I did a video. I shared some of my thoughts on a video earlier this year. I think it was in April or May or something like that. And as far as them being against marriage, shit, that's like 95% of the guys in the worldwide manosphere and black manosphere. So that ain't just them. Shit, I would say that's no less than 95% of guys in both the worldwide manosphere and the black manosphere are anti-marriage. So unless they give me a specific reason, we'll never know. But I appreciate the feedback. I really do. I appreciate the feedback I got on my last video. Now, I'm going to address a situation I had with a Patreon subscriber this past Saturday in my Patreon exclusive live stream.